everybody. Welcome to 360 Coaching with Premier Teaching and Learning. Today, I'm with Dino Mangano. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I love coaches and I love people who do just dynamic things. So today, he's going to share so much with us. And he even has a freebie at the end, so stay tuned. Dino Mangano spent most of his career just teaching in inner city schools, with short stints. He's been a dean for student instruction and an instructional coach. His heart has always been aligned with classroom practices. He supports students directly, and now he enjoys teaching at Mountain Oaks High School in Norfolk, California, where he focuses on students to constantly build their self-esteem in a variety of interests you guys are going to see today. And he has experience with academic success, project focus, and environment. He has worked with up-and-coming teachers as well. And he's a professor too at the UC Merced Teacher Prep Program. So we love our teacher prep programs, and we love the educators who teach in those programs. So, and in case he hasn't had a lot on his plate or he wasn't busy enough, he's an independent coach. So if you need him, make sure you reach out to him. He works with teachers one-on-one to help them provide the support they need in the classroom. So welcome, Dino.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So today he's going to share great stuff. It looks like it's student ownership with reading process. So tell me a little bit about that and let's dive in.
Absolutely. So like you said, I've been teaching for a while in the high school level. Mostly social studies, a little bit of ELA. And one thing I've noticed as a pattern with all my students is when they get reading assignments or when they're asked to read in class, it's always given to them in a less than entertaining or negative way. So it's homework or it's graded or there's a quiz at the end, and they don't take any ownership of it. It's something that they have to do. And because of that, they don't often grow as quickly in their reading as we would like them to. So a focus of mine for the last few years has been building student ownership in the reading, no matter what the content class is. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. This is going to be a short little snippet of what I normally do with my class at the teacher prep program. So it's sort of like an appetizer of the whole reading meal.
No, I'm excited. I'm so excited about what's to come.
So real quick, I always like to give people a little bit of background on who's talking at them. So that's me. And I put a couple of pictures on here of the things I love most. So all my different roles, you already mentioned, teacher, coach, trainer. You're going to get at the end of this, I'm going to send you guys a copy of my ebook that I just wrote last year. It's focused on new teachers. It's called the New Teacher Survival Guide, but in all honesty, it can't hurt for veterans either. Get a little reminder on what's important. So the pictures I have here are two things that are near and dear to my heart. My students, number one. So that's a picture of a school I taught at in Detroit, Michigan. My favorite day, I'm a high school teacher. So the goal is success at the next level. So graduation day was like the highlight of my year. So that's one of my kids, Crystal. She was one of those kids that really struggled at first, but kicked butt once she got through her junior and senior year and really succeeded. And the second picture is I moved to California fairly recently, 3-4 years ago, but man, I love it out here. And that was the first time I went to Yosemite. So I absolutely love it here.
No, I still have, and I definitely got to go to Yosemite, but yes, I love California.
Yosemite is breathtaking. It's you go there and you just look up and you feel like a tiny little ant because these huge mountains are just coming straight up out. So that's that feeling where my arms are like that's kind of how I felt inside. I was like, man, this is incredible. So yeah, two of my favorite things, California and my students. So today we're going to do something. We're going to do some experiential learning, and I put a third bullet point on there that's not normally on there, and let me explain why I did that. Normally, this is something we do, obviously, in person. We would all be in a room right now. We'd all be talking with each other and interacting with each other, and we would be switching between you guys having your student hat on and your teacher hat on. We're going to still attempt to do that, but with COVID, we have to add the little online twist to it. So we're going to do our best, and I want you guys to try and make that switch as we go through this presentation, and you'll see where that switch is made, and I'll point it out. So we're going to experience something as a student, reflect on it as a teacher, and think about how we would use that in our own classrooms. Okay, just a quick agenda. We're going to go over norms. We'll do that in the next slide. We'll talk about metacognition. So everything we're talking about today revolves around metacognition. We'll get a little bit to that later. The two of us are going to model this process for you of using metacognition to read, whether it's a simple or difficult text. Any text that's not familiar to our students, they're going to need to think about what's going on in their own head. And then we're going to actually have you try it, and I'll talk about that in just a second. The reflection piece is very important. You really don't learn as much as you can in any environment unless you reflect on it at the end. And then, of course, shoot you a copy of the book at the end.
Yay!
I know. can't go wrong with free stuff. Okay, so norms. Because this is recorded and online and we're not in a room together, which would be optimal, we're going to have to trust you to participate. What won't work is if you sit back with your coffee, relax, and just watch this. You may learn a few things, but you're not going to get as much out of this as you need to. We really need to dive in put that student hat on and dive in as a student, and you can't do that without a pen and a piece of paper. So I would suggest while you're listening, go grab that right now. Hit pause if you need to. Go grab something to write with and write on, because that's going to make this valuable.
Okay, I went to get my pen. I am ready.
She's ready. She's ready. And she's going to be the generic student today, so since you guys aren't here. So you'll see that in a second. I want you guys to envision this, what it would look like in your own classroom. This isn't something that's just sort of nebulous, theoretical in the class. I want you to think, what will this look like in my room? Think about your specific kids. Think about the way the room is set up, everything like that. And most importantly, it's going to be very important that you're willing to share out your reflections and your thoughts at the end. And there will be a slide for that, you'll see. Okay, metacognition. This is a word I start every school year with as the first vocab word in my classrooms. I want students to understand, they see this word, it's a huge word, they think it's going to be complicated. It's not complicated. It's just thinking about your own thinking, and that's the student-friendly language I use with them. There's always something going on in their head, especially with teenagers. There is always something going on in their head. They don't always notice what they're thinking. It's just going, and it just happens in the background. So when they're reading something that I give them to read, whether it's a novel, whether it's a primary source in a history class, it's important for them to notice what's going on in their head so they can see not just what they understand, but where their confusions are. And that's why it's important. Students will read something tough and they'll say, I don't get it, and they'll put it down, but they don't understand or think about why they don't get it. And you can't get past that roadblock unless you understand what the roadblock is.
Wow.
That is important for students becoming self-sufficient readers. It limits the time you have to spend as a teacher going around the classroom. Mr. Mangano, I don't get this one. Mr. Mangano, I don't get this one. If every time they come to a roadblock, they're constantly calling for you for help, they're not self-sufficient. If they come to a roadblock in a reading, a huge vocab word or a concept they don't understand, but they've already developed a toolbox of methods to get through that themselves and the confidence to use it, then that makes teaching in your classroom a whole lot easier, and it makes the growth in their reading ability much quicker.
And it also, just thinking about, if they actually are thinking about it, it also helps them kind of solve their own problems and even get to the root of the problem to ask you exactly what they need, as opposed to the blanket statement of, I don't get it. So yes, I'm with you.
I don't get it never helps anybody. What don't you get? I don't know what I don't get. But then, yeah, we're stuck there. And to kind of go off on a little tangent, as a history teacher, I'm a big believer in teaching skills through the lens of history, not teaching historical facts. And I know there may be history teachers out there who are cringing as I say that. I don't need them to memorize a date. They can Siri and Google that. I need them to understand why and be able to argue both sides of an event historically, and to tell me why that may happen again in the future. you can't ask Siri why an event happened. You can ask her when and how it happened or who was there. So being able to critically think, it requires them to be independent learners. If they're constantly asking for the right answer, asking for help, they're not growing as readers or as thinkers.
Yeah, you're preparing them for college.
Yeah. Okay, so this is where I would normally ask for a volunteer from the class. So look, I have a volunteer in the green shirt raising her hand. So we are going to model this process called talking to the text, which is really metacognition in the reading process. I'm going to do it first, and then my volunteer is going to do it next, and then we will ask you guys to do it yourself. So we're going to use political cartoons today for our modeling. What you would do is you would have your partner write down your thoughts as you say them out loud. In a classroom with your students, you would ideally have paper copies of whatever the text is in front of every student. So I would print out a bunch of copies of this political cartoon. Every student would have this cartoon in front of them. As I look at the cartoon, thoughts are popping into my head. And this, the kids really love when you tell them, I don't care what the thought is, blurt it out. It doesn't even have to be related to the cartoon, blurt it out. Because the goal is not for them to give a right answer. The goal is for them to notice what's going on in their head as they look at this, even if what's going on in their head isn't necessarily related to the cartoon yet. You can help them grow into that through time. For example, if I'm an 11th grade student just after lunch and my teacher gives me this cartoon and says, blurt out what you're thinking, what I'm thinking is, I'm full, I could use a nap. If that's what's going on in my head, I need the student to blurt that out. They love this at first, and they always ask, can I curse? No, you can't curse. It has to be school appropriate. But yes, you can say things that are off topic, and we will slowly focus you over time into only on topic comments. So we're going to model that for you now. Sandra, I need you just to pretend you're writing. Just do that while I'm, okay. And then I'll do the same thing. So beginning now. So I look at this, I see a big bird on the left. Looks like a half-dead turkey. I'm not sure why. It's got a stars and stripes head. So that's probably supposed to be Uncle Sam, like the eagle, because of the hat, but that doesn't look like an eagle. It looks like a vulture or a turkey. I don't know why. Looks like he's about to get jumped by looks like a cat.
I see a flag in the back.
Yep. Okay, so hold on. So there, I gave bad instructions. I'm the one talking on this one, and you only write, and then we switch with the next cartoon.
Okay.
So you're the recorder. Yep. Thank you for doing that, because I didn't give good instructions. Okay, so you're doing this. So everything I say half dead turkey. You write down half dead turkey next to Yep. So I see Jap Alley. That sounds kind of racist. Not sure why. I think someone thought that was school appropriate. Okay, there's a lot of those cats. It says maybe only alley cats, but Jeepers. A hell of a lot. I own a Jeep. It's capital J. I wonder if they're talking about that Jeep. It sort of looks like Dr. Seuss cartoons artwork. Oh, look at that. On the bottom left, it says Dr. Seuss. So this is Dr. Seuss. I didn't know Dr. Seuss did racist cartoons. That doesn't look like green eggs and ham. So Jap Alley, I'm not sure what this is about, but I don't know. It's kind of confusing. And timeout. Stop. Okay. Now we put our teacher, so that was with our student hat. We were the students. Now we put our teacher hat on. As I was thinking out loud, a lot of you teachers out there are probably thinking, come on, this is obvious. This has to do with Pearl Harbor. The sneak attack there is, so World War II, the half-dead bird is our symbolic of our military being weak at that time and not prepared. The fears Americans had of the Japanese at that time. Yeah, all those are correct answers, but students aren't always going to get that right away. So whatever their thoughts are, as long as they're noticing them and they're being recorded, that's your goal. You can always get into the correct answers later on in discussion. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm thinking of like all the text or all the unit openers that we can, introduce them to have them even have these discussions. No, I'm very excited about like different ways or different things that I can use it, different ways I can use it in the classroom, because this is very powerful.
So we're going to try it now. We're going to switch. And in a classroom, you would have the partners switch. So you are going to notice out loud everything you see in this cartoon that's coming up, and I will record it as you say it out loud. So listen, you take your filter. I always says use your filter. No, take your filter out and just blurt out everything that comes into your mind. And go.
All right. So it looks like there's bombs, probably something about the gold. I guess with bombs and gold, I don't know. Chinese. It's another Dr. Seuss cartoon. Oregon, Washington, waiting for the signal from home. So yeah, looking overseas. So they're not from here, migrants. There's boats in the back. So it looks like there was a major deportation. Honorable fifth column. I don't really know what that means, but hopefully I'll learn what that means. And there's a lot of people. So it looks like there was some type of movement.
And time. Perfect. All right, teacher hats. So she had some confusions and she noticed some things. So the more students can verbalize their confusions or questions, the easier it is for you to redirect them in the right direction. Here's a quick example. You mentioned Chinese in there. Okay, so Dr. Seuss obviously drew these people to look Asian, not in the most flattering way, again, like the last cartoon, but using historical context and knowing in World War II it was Japan that we were enemies with, these are meant to be Japanese and actually Japanese Americans who were from here. But not having that historical context, a 10th grade student or a 9th grade student would look at this and just be like, I don't know, maybe they're from China. They wouldn't know that. And that's fine. So understand when they verbalize what they're thinking, you can see where they're dead on and where they need to be redirected a little bit through discussion. And the nice thing about this is as you have different groups throughout your class doing this, you don't need to redirect students all the time. If they have a confusion or if they're going off track a little bit, you might have another group on the other side of the classroom who is on track with what they're seeing, and you can stop and say, all right, this group share out, and that group sharing can get everyone else on track without you being the teacher having to be the sage on the stage saying, no, guys, this is what it really is. In that case, you might as well just be lecturing, and that would be a waste of time.
So you are as a facilitator, it sounds like.
And absolutely. I'm a big believer in the students doing most of the heavy lifting. And the thing with most classes, especially history, students tend to be given group work when it's a little bit surface level, and reading is always given as individual homework, whereas reading tends to be the heavy lifting mentally, and to have them be able to do the reading as a group in a structured way that's also safe emotionally, because a lot of students, the last thing you ever wanted to do growing up, I don't know, it's true for me, is when we're reading out loud in class and the teacher's like, all right, who's going to read next? And they call on you and everyone turns at you and they're staring at you. And all you can think of is, oh, please don't let me mispronounce a word. And it's like terrifying. I mean, especially for like middle school kids who are nervous about everything. You have a 6th or 7th grader, they want to like just crawl under the desk when they're asked to read out loud. But that's reading out loud for the whole class. In this case, you're sharing thoughts to one other person. And it's usually a friend you're sitting next to. And so by sharing, so if let's say I was sharing with you, you'd be like, no, Dino, that's not Chinese, it's Japanese. I'm, oh, okay, good. And I didn't say that in front of the class and in my mind embarrass myself, which in reality, we as adults know it's a logical mistake to make, but for a 7th grader, they don't know.
But you're right, but it also helps have those just general discussions about how do you know? What do you know? What is your background? How can you share? Let me help you without it being argumentative. So I love the fact that students feel free, like the barrier is lowered, so students feel free to just say what's on their mind so we can start, guiding the misconception. So yes, I'm excited.
This works great. And so I've been talking about social studies. And I get a lot of pushback from math teachers, like, how am I supposed to use this in a math class? There's an equation. The low-hanging fruit is to use it with story problems. You can put a story problem up there, have them talk about with their partner, how would you put an equation together? How would you solve this? But I've also seen this with just putting an equation on the board and having a debate, having students go up there and debate how to solve it or first discuss it in their pairs, and then do have a pair volunteer to go up there and talk about it out loud. Well, first I saw this, so I was thinking maybe I need to move the X over here, but then I tried it and that didn't work. And as they're talking through the process of their thought process on how to solve it, the rest of the class can hear and see that process of what was going on in that student's head, and then see that, okay, that kid didn't get it the first, second, and third try, so I don't feel bad about not getting it the first, second, and third try. This can be done in absolutely any content. I've seen it used in PE. I've seen it used in music classes. I mean, forget about the core 4 classes. It's pretty easy to implement.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes someone showing you and practice. That's all. So here's what we're going to do now. We're going to reflect a little bit. So you, as participants, I would like you to take these questions, take a minute, and actually write down your answers. Or if you feel the need to type it, that's fine too. But I want you to record your answers. Don't just think them, record them. At any given point, whether it was me or Cassandra doing it, what was the reader doing? And at the same time, what was the listener doing while the reader was doing that? And then, stepping back as a teacher, how might this process build safety compared to whole class questioning? And what I mean by whole class questioning is, okay, guys, you read this story last night. Bobby, what was the main character doing? And then Bobby's put on the spot. So how does this help build safety compared to whole class questioning? So I would suggest hit pause, write down your thoughts, and as soon as you're done, hit play. All right, welcome back. I hope you just paused and hit play. So now we're going to do something a little bit challenging. Now we're going to put it on you guys. And Cassandra volunteered to be the you guys for this. We're going to give you a document, and I want you to try to use what you just saw independently to try to figure out this document. So what you saw was me verbalizing it and a partner recording it. Now, if you're by yourself, this whole process can be done with one person, whereas I see something on the document, I think it, and I record it myself on my own document. So it cuts out the partner, just showing that this can be done with partners or independently. So hopefully this reading will be confusing. Now, Cassandra's going to pretend to be confused because evidently she's seen this poem already before. But we're going to do our best acting job and pretend to be confused. For those of you who have not seen this poem before, it's called Hocked Gems. I was introduced to this poem through a training I did years ago, and I was baffled by it at first. It's very easy to read as far as the words. The words and sentence structure are pretty low level. The symbolism is very confusing. I use this in my classrooms in high school and with PDs with teachers and in my UC class. I would say whether it's adults or students, never get more than 40-50% of the class who understands this poem. So that means at least half or more of the people in the room have no idea what this poem is about. And that confusion drives them nuts, especially the adults. They just tell me what it's about. And I don't at first because I want them to feel what that confusion is like. So they're putting themselves in their students' shoes. Students are going to be confused by a lot of things we give them. We as teachers need to be able to empathize with that so we can support them better. And I think teachers need to feel that confusion genuinely and not just pretend it in order to feel that empathy. So we're going to go to the next slide. The poem's going to be on the slide. It would give you some time to read it. Cassandra's going to read it out loud. And as she's reading, just blurting out thoughts as they mention it. So just interrupt yourself with thoughts as they enter your head as you're reading the poem. The last rule, especially if you're doing it in the classrooms, if you get it, if you have that aha moment and you know who or what this poem is about, don't say it out loud. Write it down on the corner of your paper and cover it so no one else can see it. Cassandra, in your case, if you get it, which I know you do, don't say it out loud. Just have an aha moment, and then we'll tell everybody later on. We'll let them struggle with it a little bit. Okay, here we go.
All right. So I'm going to tell you everything I'm thinking. So Hawk Gems. With Hawk Gems, so rich, money, gold, somebody's rich, financing him. So somebody's giving, somebody money. It's a person. Our hero bravely defied. Hero, I think, superhero, Superman, all scornful laughter. So people are laughing now, just laughing. I am scornful. I guess just people are laughing. That's tried to deceive his scheme. So somebody's tricking somebody. An egg, so now we're talking about food. I'm confused. An egg, not a table. So now I'm eating, but I can't eat a table. An egg, not a table, typifies this, an unexplored planet. So now I'm in the moon. I'm in space. Planets. I know other planets. Okay. Now 3 sturdy sisters. So I got a big family here. 3 sturdy sisters sought proof. It's a him and 3 sisters. Okay, I got a family. Foraging sometimes through calm vastness. I'm confused. Calm. I know sometimes my sisters are not calm. Yet more often over turbulent peaks, maybe, and valleys. Maybe we're in California. Ooh. Days become weeks. So this is over time, clearly. As many doubters spread fearful rumors. So doubters, my family, always spreading fearful rumors about the edge. I don't know. Maybe somebody's going to die here. At last, welcome winged creatures. Woo! So some type of, I don't understand how the bird relates to my sisters and family. Signifying momentous success. At last, welcome winged creatures appeared. Signifying momentous success. Well, sometimes birds, death, success, you overcome something. I don't know. So that's kind of where I'm at here right now.
You did an absolutely excellent job of acting confused, because I already know you know what this poem's about. So that was excellent job. So for the participants out there, as she was reading that, hopefully you were going through it with her. Those of you who have never seen this poem before and right now are wondering what the heck it's about. You heard her talk about her family. You heard her talk about different themes she thought it might be and how the theme kept switching up on her. You saw the confusion on her face, heard the confusion in her voice. This is what your students are going to be feeling with a lot of the things that they get to read in your classroom. If you just gave this to the students and you said, read it to yourself silently, they would read it to themselves silently, and all those confusions that you heard her say out loud would be in their head and you would never know what they were. As a teacher now, she read this out loud to me and verbalized her thoughts in a way that they were made just as important as this poem itself. Now I can see where her thought process was going. I can allow her to keep going in that direction with the understanding that there's trust in this classroom. I'm going to bring you back to where you need to be, but I'm not going to answer all your confusions for you as they come up, because it never takes the training wheels off. So right now I'm talking a lot on purpose, because those of you who want to know what this poem is about are getting frustrated. And I do this in the classroom too. I'll just start talking and talking, and you can see the faces get tenser and tenser. Like, dude, would you just tell me what the answer is? And I won't. And often I'll say, all right, class is over. We'll talk about this next week. And I've seen adults like stand up and get mad at me about it. It's a really good experience to know what that confusion feels like. I think I've jabbered enough. Cassandra, you want to tell them what this poem's about?
I think you should. You should.
This poem is about Christopher Columbus.
Yay!
Okay, so now, knowing what that poem is about, if you go through one more time, Hock Gems financing him, that's the King and Queen of Spain.
Yeah.
Defied scornful laughter. Everyone made fun of him because they thought the earth was flat. This is what gave it away for me. An egg, not a table, typify this unexplored planet. Eggs are round, tables are flat. He thought it was round. Well, we know historically most people knew that then, but the peasants thought it was flat. 3 sturdy sisters are the 3 ships.
Pinta and Santa Maria. Got it.
Nice. That's good. Calm vastless, yet more often turbulent peaks and valleys. That's the ocean. Sometimes it's calm, sometimes it's wavy. Days became weeks. Doubters spread fearful rumors. His crew thought that he was full of it and they were going to drop off the edge. The very last part confuses some people. They think of, every time they see winged creatures, especially students nowadays, they think dragons.
Or pterodactyls or
Or
something.
something like that. It's just seagulls. When you see seagulls, you know you're near land. And so when Christopher Columbus and his crew saw the gulls, they knew that they were in good shape because they had to be close to land somewhere. So Hot Gems would have been a very different experience if we rewound and said, all right, guys, we're going to read a poem today about Christopher Columbus. Here you go. If I told them that ahead of time, it takes away all the struggle.
Mm.
Their mind doesn't have to do any heavy lifting to figure out what the symbolism means. You want them to do the heavy lifting. You want them to verbalize the struggles in their mind so that you can help them get past it, not get them past it for them. So this is a very small snippet of a larger class in reading comprehension and having students take ownership of that comprehension. So hopefully had a little bit of fun. We're going to reflect now.
Yes, I had fun.
I love that poem because I've read it about 2,000 times now, but it's still a lot of fun watching people's reaction with it. So a couple reflection questions. Get your paper back out or type it up just like we did before. So how can these routines or strategies we talked about pair version of this or an independent version of this? How can it support your struggling students? So I want you to actually imagine some students you've had. Think of their faces, think of their names, think of the exact struggles they have in your classroom, and how can this support them? Remember, we're not talking about theory here, we're talking about real world practice. And what do we do that promotes engagement and metacognition as it relates to the reading process? So jot down some of your thoughts. We're going to do the fake pause like we did before. So hit pause on your screen and then hit play as soon as you're done with your reflections. All right, welcome back. Hope you have that written down because now I'm going to ask you to share it. On this screen, first of all, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. This is, like I said, a small little appetizer of some of the things I do with my coaching, whether it's independent teachers, PDs for districts. On the screen here, you see a few different things. There's a link and a QR code. They both go to the same thing. It's a quick little survey. And I say quick, I mean 2 questions. Click, click, you're done. And on that survey, you drop your email, and I'm going to email you directly the ebook, New Teacher Survival Guide. It's on Amazon, but I'll send you guys a free ebook copy. And then your feedback, your reflections, that we just got done writing out, that you spent time thinking about. I would love for you guys, and it's optional, but I would love to hear from you. I would love you guys to email that to the email address on the bottom of the screen, manganocoaching@gmail.com. If you would like thoughts about this or next steps you can take, or if you just want to kind of go back and forth about how it would look in your classroom, shoot me an email. So I'd like to hear your reflections about what we just did. And please do the survey because that's how you're going to get the free book.
Wow. I am blown away because I'm just thinking about, I'm going back and thinking about how many, this is great for just a unit opener. How often can I use this? Because thinking about thinking is something that I've seen our teachers go away from, and it makes me sad. But hopefully we can go back to it and continue to have this in the classroom as an ongoing activity.
Well, this can be used in so many different ways. And if you guys have questions about how to use it in your specific classroom, just shoot me an email. For example, in mine, the school I worked at in Detroit, one of the things we all agreed upon as a norm as teachers, we were all going to do a do now activity in our classes. 3 to 5 minutes at the beginning to get everyone focused in a fun and engaging way on what the lesson was going to be. So I just said, I'm going to get some routines going here because kids love routine. Every single day we're going to look at a political cartoon, the entire school year. So I got something like that every single day up on the screen. They would walk in, I'd high five them at the door, and they would just sit down, and without instructions, they knew exactly what they need to do. So look at that and write down my thoughts on it and share it with a partner. Then I'd take attendance and we would get started. But it was 3 to 5 minutes at the beginning of every class. This wasn't a big, long assignment. It didn't take a ton of time, but it got them thinking about their own thinking every single class at the very beginning of the class to sort of, it's almost like stretching when you go for a run. It's the same exact thing with your brain before you jump into class. because we've all had those students that they come into class and they're leaning back and they're half asleep and their
Mm-hmm.
brain's turned off. It's first thing in the morning or it's right after lunch. This is a nice, engaging way of getting the brain up and running without stressing them out. And it's reading.
I appreciate it. So until next time, make sure you click the link, the form, give your feedback to him because he loves feedback and support. You have your email. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.